beautiful plates. I'm Persian, guys. Hi! Are you still listening?
No.
All right. Hello. This is my first real YouTube video. My name is Saba. I've had this question asked of me a lot, so I'm just going to try and answer it here. I am going to talk about my experience with dating apps. Now, anyone who's talked to me knows I'm pretty open and honest about the fact that I have used them. I have been successful in finding someone, alhamdulillah. I just think it's all the more important to talk about how it worked out for me and what I learned and all these different things, and also just being honest with the fact that I use them, because I've noticed that a lot of times people are a little bit hesitant to be honest with that part of their story. So I'm gonna break it down into 3 different parts. The first part is gonna be the who, what, when, why, all of that. Then I'm gonna talk about my experiences, and then the third part will be lessons that I've learned. So let me just check my notes real quick. So the first thing I wanna bring up is what apps I used. Now, they're not all the same. If you know anything about these apps, you know that they are not all the same. They don't all work the same. They don't all attract the same types of people. So I should just start off with what apps I used, and then I'll go into later on why I use those apps or why I stopped using certain apps. I used Minder, Muzzmatch, Bumble, Coffee Meets Bagel, and then that was it. I guess I should say that by the end of the 3 years, I really only continued to use one app, which was Minder. I felt like it was the most easy to use and had a lot more people on it. Now, why I started. This was my 3rd year of medical school. A friend brought it up and was just like, hey, did you know that this thing exists? And I had never heard about it before. So I decided to try it. And then over the next few years, it was 3rd year, 4th year, then 1st year of residency. So for 3 years, I was using this app on and off. There would be months where I'd use it, and then I would, delete my account, and I would go back on it. I would move to a different city for a rotation. I would kind of use the ones that were location based because of those, and go back and forth. And there were times where I used them because I was bored, I'll be honest. There were times I used them because I wanted to get over somebody I had just been talking to. I'm pretty honest. And then there were times where I was actually looking for somebody. To answer the question also of why I use these dating apps, one of the most annoying things to me is when people say, I'm not that desperate yet. Like, okay, that's not the only reason to be using dating apps. And again, another thing that I want to try and dispel is that just because you're using a dating app, it doesn't mean that you're desperate. I didn't consider myself desperate, and I don't see people who are using dating apps as desperate. I am, and I was in a field of medicine. I did not have a circle around me that gave me good potential options. I wasn't able to regularly go to any social events or the mosque or anything like that to be able to regularly put myself in social situations that would introduce me to people. And when you're working 80-hour weeks and you're one day off, you kind of need something that will help you find your person. So yeah, I used it for many different reasons, which I feel like is a common thing that I've noticed from people who use dating apps, is that intentions tend to change as you continue to use these apps. Like I said, I used it for 3 years, and then I eventually met somebody, which I will get to later on. Another common question I get a lot is what I told my parents, when I told them, what I told them, how I handled all of that. Now, I will say that I didn't really tell them in the beginning because I wasn't, being serious about it. When I started to use it more seriously, and then it had kind of been brought up at the dinner table before that these kinds of things existed, which I think helped. Basically, when I decided to have dinner with somebody, or however we decided, we had coffee, I just, sent a message to my mom. I just gave her a heads up, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is how I met this person, this is what he does. So it wasn't as big of a deal, but I was open with them from the beginning of when I decided to actually go one step further with talking to somebody. Over the years, I kept keeping them in the loop with people that I was talking to, if there was somebody a little bit more serious on an app or not, or how it was going. And eventually, over the course of 3 years, it just became a very normal part of conversation, to the point where there was a time where I wasn't really looking for anybody, and it was like, well, what about these apps? Like, why don't you try the app? So I think it definitely helps to plant that seed pretty early and kind of normalize it, which is what I'm also trying to do with this video. Part 2 is my general experience. 99% of the time, it really was really difficult. There were a few people that I met with in person. I really did do as best I could to screen people, to only really meet people that I really felt like it could really go somewhere. But there were times where it just really didn't work out that way. So yeah, most of the time there were just people that weren't a good fit or were not looking for the same thing. A lot of people that when I was serious, they were not, that kind of thing, like mismatch. A lot of people that weren't what I was looking for. There were definitely experiences where people were very rude. I thankfully didn't have anything that was gravely inappropriate happen, but I have also heard that that has started to happen even on some of these apps that I mentioned, where you wouldn't expect, so that's unfortunate. Thankfully, I did not have that experience. Maybe it was who I swiped on, or I just got lucky. For the most part, everybody that I actually continued to talk to was very respectful. I think if you do a good job of screening people to keep talking to, hopefully it gets there, maybe not ignoring some red flags. And if you have the right intention moving forward, then it tends to be a better call of like, okay, we're gonna keep talking or not, or at what point do you kind of pull the plug. To bring it back together, 9 out of 10 times it really wasn't the best experience, but of that, 10% of experiences, I think it taught me a lot about what I was looking for, how to really get to know a person through the internet, and also trying to see how serious someone is and figuring out if you're a good match and if it'll, really last. So at the end of the day, it only takes one person. So thankfully that worked out. Now, lessons learned. Number 1, I think that it's the most important thing is to set your intention before you even download any applications, make a profile, before you make your, little blog about who you are and stuff like that. I think it's really important that you set your intention as to what you're looking for. And the second part is really stick to what that intention is. So if your intention is, I'm here to, just have some fun, waste some time, stick to that. Be honest with yourself that that's your intention, and to the people that you're talking to. There will be a lot of people that you might meet on the app that are not aligned with your intention, and you might waste people's time and your own time if you're not just honest with yourself and other people. That's one thing I would really recommend. If you set this intention that, I am here to meet, the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, try to remember that every time you swipe on someone. Be very clear with what you're looking for. Don't waste your time with, okay, well, this is cool, or this person's really nice, or, they're really funny, but otherwise, like, don't have the things that I'm necessarily looking for. Try not to waste your time with those kinds of things, because it can lead to issues down the line if the person starts developing feelings for you or you develop feelings for them. Ends up being a waste of time. So just continue to remind yourself what your intentions are and stick to them. Another thing that I would really recommend you try to do is, like I said, I tried a few different apps. I would try to really field out what the app tends to attract. For example, I think everyone has heard of Tinder and what kind of activities and people it attracts. So if that's not what you're looking for, then don't use Tinder. Not that it's not possible, I will say that, but it's just not the more common place to find what you're looking for. So just try to feel out what these applications tend to attract, what type of people. If you're looking for someone with a particular background or that kind of person doesn't even go on an app that you're looking for, then don't even waste your time. So try to be really realistic with those expectations that you set. Another lesson that I know is very difficult at times is to do your best not to entertain the type of person that you're really not interested in the long run. Like I said before, if your intention is to just have fun, then please don't entertain the person who is trying to marry you and tell his mom about you the next day. If you are trying to get married, try not to keep talking to the guy that just keeps asking for nudes. Just don't even go there. Try not to, waste your time or anybody else's time with that kind of thing. My final lesson is just to keep swiping. As I said before, it took me 3 years, on and off, continuously trying, and at the end of the day, it finally worked. What really, made that difference was those things that I kind of mentioned before, was setting an intention, being very clear with the type of person I wanted, and not really wasting any time when it came down to knowing what I wanted and whether we were the right match for each other. That's just kind of like preliminary little tidbits. I could probably get into that another day. And if there are any questions, let me know. A follow-up that I'm thinking about is kind of how that first meeting went when I decided to meet somebody on the app, which was a little interesting. I'd never experienced that before. If that's something that you'd be interested in hearing about, let me know. And any other questions, just let me know. All right, take care. Bye.